This is how I built big shoulders as a trans man with only one exercise, so you can stop feeling small at the end of the week even though you're hammering 10 different shoulder exercise variations. I'm Sam, I've been in the industry for 6 years and I've helped over 100 plus trans guys just like you who are fed up of paying for gym plans that still left them hiding under baggy t-shirts. I've made it my mission to help as many of you with that as I can as well. The first 8 steps of that are actually linked down below in the description completely for free. It's called the In Shape Trans Guy Guide and it's full of steps you can action straight away. Before I get into it, let me start with the first and most important thing before we talk about the exercise that I used. If you follow me over on Instagram, you'll know that one thing that I post about a lot and I'm incredibly passionate about is making sure people understand what sort of a difference lowering your level of body fat can make to your physique. Trans guys are obsessed with building muscle because they think that on the other side of that lies the physique that they're dreaming of, and to a certain extent that's true, but speaking from personal experience and also from all of the people that I've helped, the majority of us actually do need to start with a good chunk of fat loss first. See, I spent years hammering away at bulks, sometimes eating over 3,000 calories a day, forcing pasta down my mouth at 9 p.m. at night when I got like 100 grams of carbs left to eat. And the truth was, I was at 30% body fat and I was not going to be seeing any muscle by continuing to cram pasta down my throat. What I actually needed to do was lose 10 kilograms, get into the best shape of my life and actually see what muscle I had underneath there first before even looking to build new muscle. Now, that's not to say that my training didn't play a big part in that, because of course it did, but I wouldn't have been able to see any of that shoulder if I hadn't have lost 10 kilos of fat. So as well as changing your training, hopefully today I can help you to see that maybe right now a bulk isn't what you need. It might be a diet. Now let's talk about exercise. Dumbbells versus cables. Before I was a coach and I really dived into the nerdy side of training, I didn't really understand the differences between using dumbbells and cables. I thought that you just needed to have a wide variety of exercises in your plan, and it kind of just stopped there. Now that I've got a coach's eye and I've learned from some of the best, I'm able to break down exercises and see them for what they truly are and what's actually happening underneath it all. To help you understand this, I'm going to pull up some videos on the screen and draw on top of them. Let's take a dumbbell lateral raise, probably the most common lateral raise variation in the world. I don't know, I haven't run any studies on that, but my guess is that it's definitely up there. Now, a standing dumbbell lateral raise, you might have noticed that when your arm's at your side, you can hold on to that weight for ages, right? Like, unless you need the toilet or to go and grab a meal, you could quite happily stand there holding on to that 10 kilo dumbbell all day. However, as you start to raise your arm out to the side, you probably can't just hold that 10 kilo dumbbell there for the whole day. In fact, if you can hold it there for 5 seconds, you're probably doing quite well. Now, there's 2 parts to this. We've got the resistance and how that changes, and we've also got our strength levels and how those change as well. Gravity is pulling down on this dumbbell. Now, to represent that, I'm going to draw on a red line to show gravity. We're going to call this a line of force. If seeing breakdowns of exercises just like this interests you, then go ahead and follow me on Instagram where I post more stuff just like this. Now, what we're also going to draw on is a green circle over the top of the shoulder joint. I'm now going to add in a second line. The longer this line, the heavier that weight is going to feel. So you'll see that as my arm comes out to the side of me during this dumbbell lateral raise, that green line is getting bigger. Thing is, I can't draw that line on at the bottom of the dumbbell lateral raise because there's no way for me to fit that line in between the line of force and my shoulder. So this exercise goes from having absolutely no challenge at the bottom to having lots of challenge at the top. That means that when our arm is down by our side and our delt's in a really lengthened position, we're getting absolutely no challenge to the muscle. It's only as we start to bring our arm out and our delt's getting shorter that we start to get a challenge. That's not bad or good, it's just a fact. So if you're waiting for me to slag off dumbbell lateral raises and say you should never do them, you've come to the wrong guy, because that's not how I see exercise. It's not black or white, we've just got facts. However, let me show you what happens if we take a lateral raise over and perform a single arm cable lateral raise. The line of force now changes, and the line of force is going to be drawn straight over our cable. Shoulder is obviously still going to be in the same position, so we can mark that up. And now we can put that line back in. So I'm looking to create the shortest distance that I can between that line of force and the circle over the shoulder. And you'll see I've got a really long line at the start of the exercise. And this does get smaller as I go throughout that rep, bring my arm out to my side. but it's still there. This means even though the challenge varies throughout the exercise, I still have a challenge at every single point. Again, neither good or bad, just a fact. Mostly what I see this as is a chance to maximize my time. Previously, I'd only ever been doing dumbbell lateral raises without realizing that I was missing out on a huge portion of training that delt. But now, since finding cable lateral raises and the different ways that we can set that up, actually what I've opened up is a whole new world where I can fully train my delt using one exercise. Now, what you might have noticed is that I've purely been talking about lateral raises, but this video is about building big rounded shoulders. So let's talk about the front and the back head of the delt. A lot of shoulder workouts that you'll see pay a lot of attention to that front delt. Thing is, it's very, very rare that I actually get a client to isolate the front head of their shoulder. I'm not saying never, I'm just saying it's quite rare. And that's purely because every single press that a client does, and I'm not just talking about shoulder presses, I'm also talking about chest presses, absolutely hammer the front delt. And it's the same for myself and my own training. Honestly, couldn't tell you the last time that I ever did a front raise. How about the back posterior head of the delt? Well, this one I do actually train a little bit differently. Not only does this one get hit with some back exercises, I will also do something like a rear delt fly. That's for myself. In terms of clients, depends on who the client is, but a lot of the time we are doing some form of direct rear delt training. But actually what I want to draw your attention to is that for me, building big capped masculine delts, whatever you want to call them, is mostly about nailing those lateral raises, because you really will find that the front and the back parts of the shoulder are getting hit in other parts of your training, but it's the lateral raises that can sometimes be leaving room on the table for more growth. So the one exercise that I use for my laterals, this is called the wrist cuffed incline cable lateral raise. It's a bit of a mouthful, but this is the one that I've been using for the best part of 2 years now, solely for my laterals. Is this more magical than the single arm standing cable lateral raise, the dual cable lateral raise? No. Honestly, it's just the one that I enjoy the most and the one that I have personally stuck to for the longest and therefore been able to see the most growth from. Really, the main takeaway from this is that exercise selection does matter. Because actually, if you're only doing a standing dumbbell lateral raise, you are potentially leaving gains on the table. But that doesn't mean that you need to dive straight in, buy cuffs and start doing some inclined cuff lateral raises. Just start with a single arm cable lateral raise and see how that feels. Although that being said, for sticking around this long in the video, I do want to give you a cool little bonus that you can have a go at and really feel the burn of. So when my client Eli came to me, one thing that he said is that he was really struggling to grow his shoulders. And I think at one point he basically told me he didn't have any shoulders. Now, before giving him any kind of mega def drop sets, the first and most important thing was to pick him out some exercises that felt good, he could set up well, he could control, he could progressively overload, and then give him the mega def drop set. So the two exercises for him was a standing dual cable lateral raise into an incline wrist cuffed cable lateral raise. Once you've nailed the setup and the form of these two exercises on their own, they actually pair up to create a mechanical drop set really well. And after doing this for the best part of 12 months, Eli, I am pleased to announce, does now have some shoulders. The first thing that you're going to do is pick out a weight for the standing dual cable lateral raises and go for 8 to 12 reps. You're looking to fail within that rep range. However, before you rest, you're now going to use that exact same weight to go into your incline wrist cuffed lateral raises. Now, you might be thinking, Sam, I've just failed with that weight. How am I now going to go straight into another set with that exact same weight? Well, this is where we can be kind of cool and play around with gravity and how it impacts us. Because even though you might have gone to failure with that same weight standing, if you now take it and do it lying down, you'll be able to eke out some more reps. So with this one, nice and simple, you're not counting to get to a certain rep scheme. You are literally just going to go until you can't go anymore. And trust me, it is a pretty cool mechanical drop set to try, and it burns like hell. And that is how I built big shoulders as a trans guy with only one exercise, so I could stop hammering 10 different shoulder variations only to still feel small by the end of the week. Remember, if you want another 8 tips to go alongside of this video, the In Shape Trans Guy guide can be downloaded below in the description. And I will see you all in the next one.